Part 70. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 691. After only one day of rest after filming the car commercial, Zhang Lingzi was picked up by Tong Yu to shoot a jewelry commercial. Chang Ning and Hu Ziyi, who were temporarily transferred to Zhang Lingzi as bodyguards, were prepared for the whole process. It's just that the jewelry ads were all shot in a studio. Even when the guys stepped forward to help put on and arrange the jewelry, they were cautious for fear of getting bumped. Naturally, there was no fierce confrontation. From the beginning to the end, it was all calm and calm. What they heard most was the reminder from the person in charge who escorted the jewelry, "Be careful. After all, these jewelry have to be escorted back intact after being photographed. Even if they are only slightly damaged, the person responsible has to take the blame." After finishing the filming and returning to the nanny's car, Zhang Lingzi looked at everyone and breathed a sigh of relief. Chang Ning and Huza still looked a little disappointed. There's no need to be so nervous. After the last failure, even if the person behind the scenes still wants to take action, he will probably have to re-evaluate my ability. It is unlikely that I will take the next step so soon. I'm afraid, what if that person is anxious? The consequence of being impatient is to fail again. Tong Yu met Zhang Lingzi's calm eyes from beginning to end and silently reflected, "I did overreact a little. Sister Tong also cares about me and everyone else, I understand." Tong Yu calmed down, opened the schedule on the tablet, checked the task of shooting jewelry commercials, and looked at the content behind it. While reading, she reminded, "Next is the promotion of the new drama of National Taiwan. If you don't like the variety show invitations, I'll reject them. Also, after the car and jewelry ads are released, remember to forward them with your own account." She said and glanced at the rest of the team sitting in the car. "Thanks to our artists, we might be able to have a serious annual vacation this year. There is no such thing as annual leave in the entertainment industry. Even many artists themselves are still recording shows or filming on New Year's Eve or Spring Festival. Naturally, their managers or assistants have to accompany them, so there is no annual leave." Among them, Lu Zhengzhen was the one who felt the most deeply. This year, especially in the second half of the year, it can be said that she took more vacation time than in the past few years combined. It was as if all the falsehoods from the past were returned to her. In the past, going to work was like a punishment for her, but now, she feels a little regretful that Sister Zixi has too little work, so that she, the number one assistant, cannot be with her all the time, and can take a day or two of rest from time to time. "Now that I heard that I am going to take annual leave, I feel a little disappointed." "Why are you not happy when you hear that you are going to take annual leave?" Lu Zhengzhen turned her head and looked at assistant number 2 Fang Yao sitting next to her. "Sister 11 has made a lot less announcements now. Maybe she is not used to it because she suddenly became free. The quality of notifications is much higher, much more." Lu Zhengzhen thought about it and thought so. Think about what she was doing with Sister Zixi last year. In the online drama, the vase has no brain supporting role. The large and small variety shows must be on the fire. As for acting in a serious drama like Empress of Yuan Zhao, going to catwalks at international fashion festivals, and being endorsed by internationally renowned car brands and international high-end luxury jewelry brands, at that time she could not even dream of doing something so outrageous. If you ask her to write a year-end summary or make a year-end PPT summary report this year, she can write thousands of words or make hundreds of pages of PPT in one breath. Post all the beautiful photos of Sister Zixi that she has accumulated this year. Sister 11 may not have this requirement. But it doesn't matter, she can secretly write it on her Sister 11's number 1 assistant account, but she can't report it to the head office to cheer herself up. Asterisk. The day after filming the jewelry commercial, the internationally renowned car brand RG, known simply as Red Dragon in China, released an official announcement of its new product spokesperson on its official account early in the morning. In addition to the promotional pictures of people and cars, there is also a 3-minute short video advertisement. RG Red Dragon started in China. It is a century-old brand. By now, its users have spread all over the world and it is well-deserved international fame. Before this, I don't know how many people were looking forward to the brand's new series of models, waiting for the official release. As soon as the official announcement came out, many car enthusiasts rushed in, followed by fans of the spokesperson and passers-by. Zhang Lingzi received a message from Tong Yu while having breakfast, and found out that the car commercial she shot a few days ago had just been officially announced. This speed is indeed quite fast. The official announcement also specially featured her as the spokesperson, so you can just click on it and forward it with one click. After eating a small steamed bun, I refreshed the interface and found that the number of likes and comments had grown to over 100,000 and over 10,000 respectively. Shen Yunqing, who was sitting opposite, watched with great interest as she drank soy milk from a cup in one hand and held her mobile phone in the other. She silently took her mobile phone from the small table next to her. He has also registered an account before, of course it is only a small account and has not been authenticated. Fans only have a few dozen given away by the platform. There is only one person in the watch list. After skillfully clicking and saving the promotional photo, he clicked on the video behind it. 3 minutes passed in a blink of an eye. When he was watching it for the second time, he clicked on the closed barrage in the lower left corner of the video. Densely colorful fonts floated above the video. The spokesperson chosen by Red Dragon this time is actually Zhang Lingzi. I was also shocked when I saw it was Zhang Lingzi. This was really unexpected. Has Red Dragon lowered its style this time? In the past, the spokespersons it sought were all big names like movie kings and actresses. Has the Red Dragon learned to follow the trend now? Look for whoever is currently popular. Please read the slogan of Red Dragon's new series of models before posting. Red Dragon's new series of models have made some youthful changes to the original stable style, and the colors are also much brighter, making them more popular among young people. It is understandable to invite younger celebrities to endorse them. Originally, the barrage was discussing whether Red Dragon's new model and its spokesperson matched. Until the video showed the red and blue cars chasing each other on the road, the direction of the barrage suddenly changed. I replayed this short paragraph several times, and the porridge in my hand became cold when I thought about it. After reading it, I can only feel it in 2 words: exciting. I just want to ask the director in charge of the shooting what he thought. It was just a commercial video. There was no need to have the attitude of making a big movie, right? While I was watching, my dad passed by behind me and asked me which action movie I was watching and recommended the title to him. I can't stop laughing, ha ha ha. Mainly the collision of vehicles, and the sound of tires scraping the ground. It feels so real, which will give you extra points in the later stage. I have a very low sense of security. What I like most about this car is that when the blue car gets flooded, the intelligent control system senses it and opens the doors and windows as soon as possible to allow the people inside to escape. Funds are also burning. This is a blue car that really got into the water, and there is also a diving scene at the end. It is really hard to spare in the winter. I wonder if the guy in the black overalls bought insurance before filming started. The fight scene between the two was also very exciting. I didn't even expect that there would be a follow-up, which makes the story more complete. Directors who are also concerned about the response. Could he say that he didn't do any post-production at all, but just edited it a little to make the scene more exciting and tense? It's exciting because the scene is so exciting. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 692. The director thought that this time he would just have to silently bear the praise that did not belong to him. Until I got a call. The person on the other end of the phone got straight to the point. I am Feng Xiu. The director subconsciously stood at attention. Feng director. It's me. I just watched the promotional advertisement you shot for the Red Dragon new car. The effect is very good. I am currently planning to shoot a racing themed movie. Do you want to be my deputy? The director was so excited that he almost couldn't help but nod his head. But out of the corner of his eye, he caught a glimpse of the video showing Zhang Lingzi driving the red car and crashing the blue car into the lake, and suddenly felt a ladle of cold water pouring down on her head. Director Feng, he said with difficulty, actually, it's not my fault that this video can produce the effect it has now. It's Zhang Lingzi, the spokesperson of Red Dragon this time. Oh, what do you say? Probably because it's real. The director opened his mouth. We didn't actually do post-production, we just edited it a little and shortened it to 3 minutes. After the words fell, there was silence on the other end of the phone. The director waited for a long time, holding his heart and feeling sad that it would be great if this was really what he had filmed, and then tentatively said, Director Feng, are you still there? I am here. If you want to make a movie with a racing theme, I think Zhang Lingzi can recommend it. This girl is really good at driving. Well, she is also very courageous. It was so big that he didn't want to take pictures of this girl anymore. After all, he had to consider whether his little heart could bear it. Well, I'll think about it carefully and I'll consider it. Then, goodbye, Director Feng. Goodbye. By the way, Happy New Year in advance. Happy New Year to you too. Hang up the phone and the assistant just opens the door and comes in. Seeing him covering his heart with his hand, he asked, Does your heart hurt? Yeah, it hurts me to death. That's the preface. Taishan Baidu among domestic action film directors, he just refused the other party's personal invitation. But he is also self-aware, and it is better to refuse now than to expose his professional skills and be caught on the spot by the other crew. But it's still so heartbreaking. Then I just received several invitations from brands, and they all invited you to shoot endorsement ads for them, and the quotations were given directly. Director, hey, my heart suddenly doesn't hurt anymore. Let me take a look. Even though I can't go to the director's crew to learn from the director on the spot, shooting a few more commercials will not only take a long time, but also make a lot of money. You can't have your cake and eat it too, he can at least get the same thing and be content. After hanging up the phone, Feng Xiu was still frowning in thought while watching the video. In his original conception of a racing-themed movie, the protagonist must be a male. After all, female racing drivers are very rare. However, there must be female characters in the movie, but the roles are limited to the protagonist's sisters, or lovers. So should he add a female racing driver in the movie? Even for him, this was a bold attempt and he had to think about it carefully. Asterisk. Most people who saw this promotional video only saw the excitement and fierce collision, and only those who truly understand the inside story can appreciate the thrills in these few minutes. Although Shen Yunqing heard Zhang Lingzi talk about what happened during the filming after he came back that night, he never saw it with his own eyes. Furthermore, before the video was released, due to the principle of confidentiality, even he could not get the original video shot by the brand. Only now has he finally seen what exactly happened during the filming. What's next? Zhang Lingzi put down the cup of soy milk she had just finished drinking from, and raised her eyes to look at Shen Yunqing. What's next? Shen Yunqing silently swallowed what he wanted to say later. It's better not to drive. He suddenly remembered that the person in front of him still had a lot of rebellious psychology in his bones. The more he said he was not allowed to do something, the more he would do it. At that time, the old ministers who leaned on the old soldiers were not angry by His Majesty's temperament. Didn't Honglong give you the car you drove? Don't be busy driving it when it's delivered. I'll let Huze modify it first. Although the car is indeed quite strong according to the video, it is probably not enough for His Majesty. He can modify it to be stronger and more durable. Zhang Lingzi nodded obediently. That's okay. 2 hours later. Hashtag RGS new product spokesperson Zhang Lingzi hashtag has become a hot search topic due to fans of Red Dragon and Zhang Lingzi, as well as passers-by who were attracted by the advertising video that looks like an action movie. Some netizens who didn't mind the trouble took screenshots of Zhang Lingzi's reply to netizens in the previous post and made fun of themselves below. At first, I was still thinking about what kind of endorsement it was. I could definitely afford it with my salary of 18,000 yuan, but now it turns out that I was naive. You really have to buy it on demand, because this is not something you can buy and play with. Now I realize that my sister's reply was really a kind and sincere reminder. The bonus given in the new year is just enough for the down payment of a standard car, so I am going to buy a Red Dragon. It's just that there are so many colors that I have trouble choosing. Could you please help me decide what color to choose? I am envious of my real name. But do you still have to choose? It must be red. Sister 11 is so handsome when she drives this model. It is also the main color of this model. Others can only give you a reference, it still depends on what style you prefer. Of course, if I can afford it, red is my first choice, it's beautiful to the core. I feel that no matter which color Sister 11 can hold up, of course the best match is red. I also choose red. Isn't there another endorsement? I should be able to afford another endorsement, right? I suggest you not to talk too much. It is recommended to add one. The period a year ago was one of the hottest periods in the automobile market. Many people who want to get married like to get married during the holidays before the new year, and many people who have received large year-end bonuses can support a large purchase. Cars that are usually unaffordable have become popular items nowadays. Honglong launched new products at this time, naturally because of this consideration. Although Red Dragon's cars are easy to sell, who doesn't like to take advantage of the good opportunity and the popularity of the internet to sell a few more cars? Tongyu's good news was sent at noon. First, I sent a dozen photos of the crowds of guests at the major sales departments of Red Dragon Motors, and finally a few lines of data. In the 5 hours since the new product was released, more than 50,000 units of the new series of Red Dragon cars that you endorse have been sold. These statistics are only in China after all, there are time differences in other places among them, the main models in red account for more than 60%. After a pause, he sent another message. Red Dragon brand Fang just sent me a letter of intent to continue cooperation. After Zhang Lingzi sent her a Tongzi reply, she also thought of someone silently in her heart. After all, if it hadn't been for that person, she really wouldn't have been able to test out more of the car's performance and how durable it was, and the video she shot wouldn't be so exciting. Grateful. But the joys and sorrows of human beings are not the same. Zhang Lingzi's endorsement of Red Dragon has even been on the hot search. Zhang Lingzhou, who has been secretly paying attention to Zhang Lingzi in the past few days, naturally cannot not know about it. Others saw that the fierce chase in the promotional video was all synthesized with post-production special effects, and they commented that it looked so real. But in Zhang Lingzhou's eyes, it was as if he did not hesitate to make a deal with the devil, but the devil he invited cooperated with Zhang Lingzi to complete a perfect confrontation. The biggest clown among them is him. Boom. This time it was a tablet that was scrapped, and he had no mobile phone to use it. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 693. What interrupted Zhang Lingzi's silent gratitude in her heart was an account that had almost accumulated dust in her friend list. Sister Zixi, are you free now? Grandpa wants to say a few words to you. Zhang Lingzi clicked on the other person's profile picture and looked at it for several seconds before typing a reply, I'm free. The next second, the video application will be sent. Zhang Lingzi quickly sat upright on the recliner, quickly checked her clothes, and then clicked to connect. An old face suddenly appeared on the screen. Su Lao. Miss Zhang, long time no see. Indeed, it has been almost 8 months since I last asked you to prescribe medicine to take care of my body. Are you taking your medicine seriously? Zhang Lingzi nodded seriously, yes. Are you here for a follow-up consultation with me? Even she herself didn't quite believe this question. After all, it has been more than half a year, how can it be so long before follow-up consultations? But if there were other reasons, she really couldn't think of them. Then let me tell you straight, I want to see your hand, to be precise, the back of your hand. Zhang Lingzi paused with the hand holding the phone, and then raised the hand with the prayer beads in front of her. What do you think? I just took a look at Xing Yuan's cell phone and saw the car commercial you took. My old man guessed that the lines on your hands are not tattoos, right? And these Buddhist beads should be, too. Isn't it just for decoration? The two looked at each other silently across the screen for a few seconds before Zhang Lingzi smiled and said, what do you see here, sir? To be honest with Miss Zhang, Su Mo-kun sighed, with a bit of bitterness on his face. I suddenly approached Miss Zhang this time out of selfish motives. Xing Yuan's father was also a very good doctor back then. I planned to pass on the mantle to him. But he had an accident 8 years ago. When the police found him, on his exposed skin, it's the same texture as Miss Jiang's hand. No, the color is much darker. But until the final decision, I couldn't find out how the texture appeared. But I always felt that this texture was probably the key. He was working on treating diseases and saving people, quietly in his home laboratory, until, he paused and cleared his choked throat, until I saw your hand. It was so similar that I couldn't help it. Then Xing Yuan's father. After that accident, everyone disappeared. Xing Yuan hasn't seen his father yet. Well, Mr. Su, let's make an appointment and talk in person. Although she suspected that this was something Wu Hua had done before she was alive, she had a hard time talking about this kind of thing over the internet. Okay, Miss Zhang is in the imperial capital now. I am also in the imperial capital. I am free at any time. It depends on whether you come to me or I go to you. I can do either. Zhang Lingzi could understand the old man's impatientness. The child he had high hopes for died unexpectedly, but as a doctor, he couldn't even determine the cause of his death. He has been searching silently for 8 years and still hasn't given up. Until now, he finally saw a possible clue. I'll go see you. Give me your address. I'll be free in the afternoon. Okay, after hanging up the video, I will ask Xing Yuan to send you the location and location. How about I send a driver to pick you up? Don't bother, I'll drive there. Then I'll wait for Miss Zhang to come over. On the way to the Su family's car, there was another person on the way out. Zhang Lingzi glanced at Shen Yunqing, who was sitting in the co-pilot. Mr. Su must be fine. I met him by chance when I was recording the show when I first came here. He even prescribed me medicine to take care of my health. Shen Yunqing nodded, yeah. But 8 years after his son died unexpectedly, he still hasn't given up on tracing the cause. This old gentleman is very obsessed, and I'm afraid he will be very excited to see you. Especially because His Majesty still has those lines on his hands, but he is still alive and well. The son of Mr. Su is already dead. Thinking about it like this, as a relative, I am afraid that I am not willing to accept it deep down in my heart. Zhang Lingzi finally got Shen Yunqing together. Half an hour later, she parked the car at the entrance of the Su family courtyard. Turning around, he saw the grandfather and grandson already waiting at the entrance of the courtyard. They must have been waiting for a while. She opened the door and got out of the car. Mr. Su. Miss Zhang is here. Su Mo-kun took his grandson's hand and greeted him. When he saw Shen Yunqing getting out of the passenger seat, he said, Mr. Shen. Shen Yunqing, Dr. Su. Zhang Lingzi stood in the middle and looked at the two of them. Do you know each other? Wait, I remembered it. When Zhu was being interrogated by me once, he mentioned that you had found a Dr. Su to regulate your body. Could it be Mr. Su? Shen Yunqing. He nodded silently. It seems that the two of us are quite in tune with each other, and we have both asked Mr. Su to take care of our health. Even if Su Mokun didn't know the relationship between Zhang Lingzi and Shen Yunqing before, he found out about it through the conversation between the two. You too. Zhang Lingzi took Shen Yunqing's hand, smiled and nodded at the old man. Is the relationship you guessed? Come in quickly. Su Mokun accepted it well. After all, when two people stand together, everyone will feel that they are a perfect match, and neither one will take away the glory of the other person. On the other hand, Su Xingyuan couldn't help but raise his head and look at Shen Yunqing a few more times, and finally had to admit silently that this person did look better than Wei Kei. Looking at Sister Zixi taking the initiative to hold Mr. Shen's hand, it can be seen that she likes him very much. It seems that Wei Kei has no chance at all. The Su family's courtyard is a courtyard with 3 entrances. The first step is to receive guests and also to receive visiting patients. You can smell the obvious smell of Chinese medicine when you come in. The second entrance is for residents, and the third entrance is for warehouse. However, this time Su Mokun first let his grandson go to the study curtain, and then directly took Zhang Lingzi and Shen Yunqing to the third entrance. No one is allowed to come over here without my permission. Everyone in the family knows this rule of mine. It was inconvenient for Miss Zhang to say it in the video before, so I have to trouble you to clarify my old man's doubts. Zhang Lingzi took the Buddhist beads on her wrist in her hand. Mr. Su can see that the Buddhist beads are not just for decoration, and there should be some progress in the research on this thing. Su Mokun nodded and handed over a notebook with frayed edges. Here are my research notes. I have always wanted to understand what is causing these lines on people, so I did some experiments. Zhang Lingzi opened the notebook, read a few pages and then looked up at the gray-haired old man. I would like to ask, the body of Xingyuan's father. I have been keeping it secretly. Although he was buried in peace, his death was unclear. Even if he was buried, how could he be buried in peace? Later, the research fell into a bottleneck, and I even tried metaphysics that I thought were illusory in the past, and unexpectedly found that some things were real. It works, such as the peachwood sword that represents righteousness, or the Buddhist beads that have been blessed by the monks like Miss Zhang. Zhang Lingzi closed her notebook, turned her head and looked at Shen Yunqing. You're right, Mr. Su's obsession is really deep. A man secretly kept his son's body for 8 years. No ordinary person could do that. I would also like to take the liberty to ask, how do you preserve it? Freeze. Before freezing, I drew some of his blood, which was used in the subsequent experiments. Miss Zhang, don't worry, I didn't shed even a drop of the blood. I still know the importance of this. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 694. In the specially opened basement. Zhang Lingzi and Shen Yunqing looked at Su Zai lying flat in the freezing device through a thick glass. At first glance, I thought the man was just asleep, except that his face and exposed skin were a little pale. But precisely because his skin is pale and lacks any color, the purple-black lines under his superficial skin even look a bit ferocious. You are the only 2 people besides me who have seen each other in the past 8 years. Don't worry, Mr. Su. Zhang Lingzi looked away and nodded slightly to Su Mokun. We won't mention it to anyone when we get out of here. Actually, at my age, even if someone comes and calls me a lunatic after knowing what I have done, I won't care much. However, Xingyuan is still young, and I don't want to put this matter on his shoulders. I understand. Zhang Lingzi walked forward again, almost leaning against the glass partition wall. After observing more carefully, she nodded lightly under Su Mokun's breathless waiting eyes. those things on Mr. Su's body. The texture is indeed very similar to what it was on the back of my hand. That. The lines on the back of my hand are from accidentally getting someone's blood on me. Blood? Blood again. Is the other person's blood poisonous or something else? Who did Zai come into contact with during his lifetime? Su Mo-kun frowned. Miss Zhang, the person you are talking about. He's dead. Zhang Lingzi's eyebrows were cold. That man did many evil things, so he died cleanly. It is really clean, and there is only a strange heart left in the whole body. Su Mo-kun couldn't help but trance, and murmured again, dead, actually dead. Zhang Lingzi and Shen Yunqing looked at each other, and after the old man calmed down, he asked softly, does Mr. Su know what caused Mr. Su's accident? Su Mo-kun finally recovered from his trance and nodded. Our Su family has a tradition of setting aside 1 to 3 months every year to conduct free medical clinics in some remote places with insufficient medical conditions. Zai was going to a free clinic at that time. It was originally scheduled to be 2 months later, and he would be back just in time to catch up with Xing Yuan's first birthday party. But a few days before he came back, he called me and told me that he had received a patient with strange symptoms, and his return was expected to be postponed. I have also encountered this kind of thing. The patient's condition is more important. Once you receive a diagnosis, you must not give up halfway. But I didn't expect that phone call would be the last phone call our father and son made. Su Mo-kun's eyes were a little red when he said this. Seeing the 2 young people in front of him waiting quietly without any intention of urging him, he calmed down and continued. Then I received a call from the police, informing me to go. I rushed to the small town where he had a free clinic overnight, and saw him lying quietly on the bed like this. The whole town, including the patients he had treated, no one knows what happened to him. What about the patient he received who said his symptoms were strange? Here's the suspicion. The police asked everyone who knew Zai in the town, but they all had no impression of this person, as if this person didn't exist at all. The only one who knew. That's really like her style. Who? Su Mo-kun felt his head tremble. Zai's patient. Does Miss Zhang mean that person is Zai's murderer? No surprise, Zhang Lingzi nodded, it should be her. Then, how did that person die? Does Miss Zhang know? It is your own fault, and harming others will ultimately harm you. Although the reply he got was still a bit vague, Su Mo-kun vaguely guessed something and wisely did not ask any more questions. It's too cold underground and it's not good for your health to stay there for a long time. Let's go up. When Zhang Lingzi and Su Mo-kun were talking, Shen Yunqing stood aside and listened quietly. At this moment, he suddenly said, I saw that there seemed to be traces of sutures on Mr. Su's heart. Su Mo-kun couldn't help turning his head and glanced at Shen Yunqing. Mr. Shen has good eyesight. In fact, the cause of Zai's death given by the police was a missing heart. But my own examination results showed that his heart was only taken away after his death. As a doctor, no one knows better than him as to what the heart can be used for after it is removed. Returning to the ground, Su Mo-kun suddenly bowed lightly to Zhang Lingzi. Miss Zhang came here specially. Not only did she listen to me, an old man, say so many words that I can only keep in my heart at ordinary times, but she also let me know that she had harmed Zai. The people have already received their retribution, and I feel much more relaxed, thank you. Zhang Lingzi quickly helped him up. I know a person who can actually judge the cause of Mr. Su's death better. That person is also a friend of Yunqing and he also gave me the treatment method for the back of my hand. But he is not in China now. State. If you don't wait until he comes back. Before Zhang Lingzi could finish speaking, Su Mo-kun nodded directly, I can wait. I've been waiting for 8 years, and I don't care about 1 or 2 months. Miss Zhang also knows my address. Just send me a message then. Just come over here. But I will also tell him about Mr. Su. But don't worry, Mr. Su, he is a monk and will not lie. Good. After returning from the third entrance to the second entrance, Su Xingyuan, who was detained in the study room practicing calligraphy, heard the noise and trotted out. "Are Sister Zixi and brother-in-law Zixi leaving now?" Zhang Lingzi nodded. Thinking that Mr. Su had said that the child's father died before he was 1 year old, she reached out and touched his head again. "Can calligraphy be improved?" Su Xingyuan hesitated for a moment and then nodded. "Even though there is not much progress, I also brought back Sister Zixi's calligraphy and posted it on the wall opposite the desk. Sister Zixi, do you want to take a look?" Zhang Lingzi met the little guy's expectant eyes and finally nodded. So a few people turned to the study room again. Zhang Lingzi looked at the large characters Su Xingyuan had just written, while Shen Yunqing walked to the word yin and looked at it for a while. This should have been written not long after His Majesty woke up, with a somewhat unconcealable murderous aura. After all, he is someone who has just returned from the battlefield. As for why the word yin is written, it is naturally because the Yin dynasty is the one that Your Majesty is most familiar with. Zhang Lingzi briefly mentioned the shortcomings of Su Xingyuan's current large calligraphy. When she raised her eyes, she saw Shen Yunqing stopping by the wall, looking at her inscription in a trance. She walked around the desk and walked over. "I originally wanted to introduce you to Mr. Su, the doctor who regulates your body. I took the medicine he prescribed to regulate my body, but I didn't expect that you knew him earlier than me. The Su family's medical skills have a long history and are very famous." Su Mo-kun came back from making a pot of tea and happened to hear this sentence. He waved his hands hurriedly. "I didn't understand Mr. Shen's symptoms at the beginning, but I can't say that. But this time when I saw him, Mr. Shen's condition was much better than before. If you don't mind, can I check your pulse again?" "Then I'll thank you, Mr. Su." Zhang Lingzi decisively held Shen Yunqing's wrist and handed it over. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 695. It's indeed a lot better. If it weren't for taking the medicine, it seems that my mood has been greatly affected, Su Mo-kun said and smiled at Zhang Lingzi, who was standing aside. This person is sometimes a good medicine, more effective than any other medicine. Zhang Lingzi watched Shen Yunqing's eyes fall on her wrist, and simply hid her hand. "My hand is not fully healed yet. Checking the pulse should have an impact. Let's wait until the hand is healed." Shen Yunqing had no choice but to swallow back what he was about to say. After drinking tea, Zhang Lingzi and Shen Yunqing said goodbye to their ancestors and grandson. However, on the way back in the car, the two of them lost their seats. Shen Yunqing drove, and Zhang Lingzi sat in the passenger seat. "What is Your Majesty thinking?" "You can see it." Zhang Lingzi glanced at him and sighed softly. "You said that Su Zai was really killed by Wu Hua. Su Zai was not a magician but a doctor. Why did she pretend to be a patient? Why did you kill Su Zai and take away Su Zai's heart?" It is naturally difficult to discuss these doubts in front of Su Mo-kun, the father of the deceased. Now that they are the only two in the car, they have no worries. "I've thought about this too." Shen Yunqing pondered for a moment. Is there a possibility that Wu Hua did have a physical problem at that time, and Su Zai was treating her, but was later arrested because of the discovery of Wu Hua's physical secrets? Killing. But there is really no logic in taking away the heart. It's a pity that people died. Of course, this is a pity, but it is a pity that the rightful owner cannot explain her doubts. It should be morning over there now, right? Shen Yunqing looked at the time. It's about the same. Then I'll call Wuju right now. When Wuju was connected, Zhang Lingzi got straight to the point. "Wuju, Yunqing, and I met a person today who was probably killed by Wu Hua. That person died 8 years ago and had the same pattern on the back of my hand. His heart was taken away by Wu Hua after his death." As soon as Zhang Lingzi finished speaking, she heard the sound of something being knocked to the ground and broken into pieces from the microphone. "Wuju, what happened to you over there? Wait for me to rush back as soon as possible." Zhang Lingzi could hear the urgency in Liuji's voice. Have you finished taking care of everything over there? It's almost done. Hamir can do the rest of the finishing work. I should be able to arrive in the imperial capital tomorrow. Zhang Lingzi, okay, then when you return to the imperial capital, come to Ziwan to find me and Yunqing. Hang up the phone. Zhang Lingzi reviewed Liuji's reaction again. Liuji's reaction to this matter seems a bit big. He probably knows something. He said he can return to the imperial capital tomorrow. Then wait until he comes back and ask him again. It's hard to talk about this kind of thing on the phone. Zhang Lingzi and Shen Yunqing both thought it would be good if Liuji could come back at noon or afternoon tomorrow. Unless you hang up the phone, turn around and get on the plane. As a result, they never expected that when they woke up early the next morning, they saw someone sitting in the main hall outside. Summer solstice, Master Liuji arrived an hour ago. You really rushed back without stopping. Are you feeling well? Okay, but it's not all resolved yet, Liuji said with a wry smile, but the information Your Majesty brought me this time is too important, and I must come back as soon as possible. What information? Information about Su Zai. That's right. Your Majesty, do you still remember the heart that I asked Chang Ning to bring back with you when she returned to the country with you? Zhang Lingzi felt a sudden flash of inspiration in her head. Could it be that the heart doesn't belong to Wu Hua? Liuji pursed his lips and nodded. I said, even Wu Hua is black from head to toe, and his blood is black. How can he still have such a beautiful heart? That heart originally belonged to Su Zai. That's right, Liuji said in a deep voice. Since ancient times, practicing sorcery has always been harmful to the body. In the end, it will only transform people into ghosts or ghosts. Wu Hua is such an example. The heart is the first to be corroded by the death energy. But in her opinion, if the heart can no longer be used, then it can be used by another one. However, this heart cannot be used by anyone. It must be an adult. She is full of vitality, and needs to be kind, selfless, and upright, so that she can withstand the infection of death in other parts of her body day after day, and it can be used for a longer period of time. Zhang Lingzi took his words, so, she focused on Su Zai. The Su family is a family of traditional Chinese medicine that saves lives and heals the wounded. Su Zai is an adult, and his heart is absolutely healthy. He is kind and selfless. As a doctor, he is even more. There is no shortage, it is simply an excellent heart donor. Liuji nodded slowly. His Majesty said on the phone yesterday that you and Yunqing had seen Su Zai's body. Yes, Su Zai's father, Su Mo-kun, and I are old acquaintances, and we have each other's contact information. Yesterday I had an advertising endorsement release, and he just happened to see these lines on the back of my hands from the video, and they were the same as Su Zai's. The lines on Zai's body were very similar, so he contacted me. The old man doesn't want his son's death to be unknown. He has been trying hard to find the truth these years, and even froze Su Zai's body. He didn't want to give up a possible clue when he came to me. When I called you yesterday, I just came from Su Zai. Come out home. Shen Yunqing gave a cup of tea to the two people who had been talking to each other for a long time when they met, and summed up, by the way, it's true that after one drink and one peck, the fate will be decided. Zhang Lingzi took a sip of tea and said, by the way, Liuji, what were you planning to do when you asked Chang Ning to take the heart back home? First, take him home. Second, offer incense, but I didn't expect that his body would be kept by his relatives to this day, so it's time to return it to the original owner. Liuji said as he put down the teacup, took out his cell phone and sent a message to Chang Ning. I asked Chang Ning to get the box back, and I have to ask Your Majesty to take me to the Su family. Zhang Lingzi nodded decisively, no problem. Only when Liuji got up did Zhang Lingzi know what he meant by not feeling better yet. The upper body of this man is just like an ordinary person. From the waist down, it seems as if 100 kilograms of stone has been dropped invisibly. His walking is heavy and slow, and he almost tripped when he walked around the coffee table. Shen Yunqing quickly helped him with his quick eyes and said, "It's really hard for you. Hurrying back with such a body behind you, you came so quickly." Zhang Lingzi looked at Wu Zhu. "I saw a piece of technology news on my phone 2 days ago, saying that after freezing a person, there is a certain chance that the person can be resurrected after thawing. Su Ji was frozen by his father as soon as he died, and his heart Wu Hua was properly preserved by you after his death, so after putting it back into his body, is it possible for others to wake up again? If conventional medical methods are not enough, what about adding the methods of a magician? After all, the 4 of them in the hall are able to stay here alive only because of the unpredictable magician's skills." End of chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 696. Under the gazes of Zhang Lingzi and Shen Yunqing, Wu Zhu nodded slowly. According to His Majesty's auspicious words, if a miracle can really happen, it will be a blessing. This is why I rushed back in a hurry. But if this kind of thing can be called a miracle, there is no way to guarantee it, so he didn't mention it at all. But now that I'm asked directly, I have no choice but to answer. Then when Changning gets the heart back, we will set off immediately. Zhang Lingzi said as she touched her cell phone and sent a message to Su Mo Kun first. "Mr. Su, I will take my friend there later." But when she was about to send the second post, she hesitated. "I received a reply from Su Mo Kun, so fast? I talked to him on the phone yesterday when I came back, and he rushed over as soon as possible. In addition, there is one more thing that needs to be returned to its original owner." "Su Mo Kun, what?" "You will know when we rush over." Su Mo Kun looked at several messages sent by Zhang Lingzi and didn't even bother to eat breakfast. He didn't remember that he gave Zhang Lingzi anything, so where did the words "return to the original owner" come from? Following yesterday, he felt his heart scratching like a cat again. While waiting for Changning to bring the heart, the 3 people waiting in Ziwan had breakfast. Seeing Changning carrying the small safe, Zhang Lingzi stood up first and said, "Let's go." Shen Yunqing followed closely behind. The 2 of them walked out a few steps when they heard the helpless voice of Wu Zhu who was lagging behind, "Wait for me." Zhang Lingzi looked back and saw Wu Zhu taking heavy steps, 1 step, 2 steps. "Is there a wheelchair here?" One word wakes up the dreamer. Xiaoji slapped his forehead and said, "Yes, it's an electric one. I'll go to the warehouse and push it out right now." Zhang Lingzi just asked, but she didn't expect it to happen. Who was this wheelchair used for before? "Wu Zhu, please, Yun Cheng." "Shen Yunqing, it's me." Zhang Lingzi immediately lowered his head and glanced at Shen Yunqing's legs. Wu Zhu finally caught up with the 2 of them. When he first woke up, he had been in bed for a long time and was very weak. His legs were just for decoration and he couldn't walk at all. The wheelchair must have been used at that time. Shen Yunqing touched his nose and said, "At that time, I was a little weak and couldn't use my strength. Actually, I'm not that useless." Zhang Lingzi, "Yeah. It's just that there are still some waves in my heart. People like them would feel quite insecure if they were unable to control their own bodies." She just couldn't use her hands temporarily before. If Shen Yunqing hadn't been by her side, she wouldn't have been able to guarantee that her mood would always be stable. If you are so weak that you can't even use your legs, and you have just arrived in such a strange world, you know that the recovery process will not be easy. It would be an understatement to say it was the darkest period. What others said, or even what I said, may not be as good as the difficult situation at that time. You are allowed to be willful only this time. Shen Yunqing immediately understood the meaning of Zhang Lingzi's warning and nodded. Okay, he had achieved the most perfect thing, and he was already satisfied. The electric wheelchair was quickly fetched, and when Wuja sat on it, his speed immediately surpassed the two walking people. Half an hour later, less than a day later, we heard the car in front of the Su family's courtyard again. This time only Su Mo-kun was waiting at the door. When he saw the small box in Wuja's hand who got off the car, his eyes were fixed on it for some reason and couldn't move away. Wuja took the box and sat on the wheelchair taken out of the trunk. He also raised his head and looked at the old man in front of him. With his ability, he could see the faint red line between the heart in the box in his arms and the old man at a glance, and the kinship was clear at a glance. "Mr. Su, I am unconscious. Please forgive me for visiting without permission." "No, no," Su Mo-kun waved his hands randomly, his eyes still falling on Wuja's hand and reluctant to move away. Is this the thing that Miss Zhang said should be returned to its original owner? He wanted to ask if I could take a look now, but was interrupted by Wuja's warm voice. "Mr. Su, let's talk after we go in." Okay, I'm sorry. Zhang Lingzi and Shen Yunqing, who were ignored, looked at each other and followed without saying a word. After entering the third room, the room where we talked yesterday, this time before Su Mo-kun could speak, he unconsciously opened the box and took out the heart that was preserved with magic inside and looked still alive. "Mr. Su, this is Zai's heart, it's my son Zai's heart, right? There must be nothing wrong, I can feel it. Wuja looked at the old man and murmured eagerly waiting for confirmation, and nodded heavily. "I'm sorry that it took so many years to return the heart to its owner." Su Mo-kun touched the void with trembling fingers, and before he knew it, he was in tears. Although he knew that the old man needed to vent, Wuja still interrupted harshly. "Mr. Su, I need to see Mr. Su's body again. I said before that the property would be returned to its original owner, but it is not really returned yet." "Original owner?" Su Mo-kun wiped the tears from his face and subconsciously looked at Zhang Lingzi, who was standing quietly by the side. He calmed down and said, "I will take you down." In front of the glass wall, Wuja slowly stood up in his wheelchair and looked at the body lying in the freezing device with great seriousness. Su Mo-kun on the side didn't know why he had been observing for so long, but he felt that this observation was very important, so he didn't ask rashly. Zhang Lingzi and Shen Yunqing also consciously kept quiet. When Wuja finally withdrew his gaze, Su Mo-kun subconsciously breathed a sigh of relief. Upon seeing this, Zhang Lingzi couldn't help but take a step forward. Wuja turned his head and nodded lightly towards her. "Mr. Su preserved Mr. Su's body very well and took great care, but the lines on his body are actually not the same as Miss Jiang's. How to say? His body was modified before the heart was removed." "Reform," Su Mo-kun couldn't help but repeat these two words. "Why, reform?" What happened next was a bit cruel. Wuja paused and told the truth, in order to let the heart adapt to another body. Su Mo-kun swayed. As a doctor, he can understand some words without speaking. Looking at the heart placed aside, has my son's heart been beating in another person's body all these years? Is it the person who killed him? In order to use his heart, he first cruelly transformed it, and finally take away the heart. When he asked the last question, his tone was shaking badly, but he still insisted on finishing the question. The red eyes looked straight at Wuja. Wuja couldn't bear it and turned his gaze to the side, nodded lightly, "Yes." However, this transformation also gave me a glimpse of another possibility. Miracle, maybe this time it is really possible. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 697. Impossible. Su Mo-kun didn't know how many dreams he had had that his son was standing in front of him alive, but now he was awake. He had just heard the truth about his son's death and was awake looking at his son's heart with great heartache. The 4 words resurrection from the dead have always been just a beautiful wish for people. How could it happen in reality? He is still a doctor, and he knows even better that this is impossible to do. Then Mr. Su, are you willing to believe me this time? Su Mo-kun was speechless again. Ding Ding looked at Wooju in silence for a long time, and then asked with a trembling tone, what are you going to do? Place Mr. Su's heart back. Although I used a secret method to preserve this heart, the heart alone cannot live alone, and the secret method is not omnipotent. Over time, without the nourishment of flowing blood, it will also slow down. Slowly drying up. Can a person lie back to life if his heart is put back in place? I can only say that it is possible. Su Mo-kun is still struggling. Logically speaking, once his son's heart is restored to his body, he is considered complete. As for the man who harmed his son in the first place, he is now dead because of his own misdeeds, so the son can also be buried in peace. But now the person in front of him gave him another choice that could almost be called a wishful thinking. Although he said it was impossible and felt it was impossible in his heart, it was really hard not to have a vague expectation. Don't we need to ask an expert in cardiac surgery to do this operation? I know an expert in this field and can contact him now. Wooju silently took out a surgeon's license from his pocket and said, don't worry, Mr. Su, I can do it. Su Mo-kun. Zhang Lingzi couldn't help but raise her eyebrows. She only knew that Wooju, a Chinese medicine practitioner, was quite powerful, but she didn't expect that this person was an all-rounder. Okay, Su Mo-kun finally made up his mind after repeatedly checking that Wooju's license was genuine. I'll let you in. Behind the glass wall is an environment that is no less than a clean operating room. After Wooju went through some disinfection, he walked in with his heart in his hand. The 3 people who stayed outside watched closely through the glass. Time passed by minute by second, and when the sutures around the heart were completed again, Wooju came out with a pale face. This time he completed a major operation independently. In addition, he rushed here non-stop. After coming out, he sat in a wheelchair and didn't want to move. Zhang Lingzi glanced at Su Mo-kun, who was still staring at the operating table, and walked up to Wooju. After thinking about it, she still didn't ask how sure she was. It is said to be a miracle. We can only wait for the miracle to happen, or it may not happen. Wooju, what is the state of Mr. Su's body after being transformed? She had wanted to ask this question before, but she kept it in her heart as she tried hard to convince Mr. Su. Wooju breathed a sigh of relief. Actually, his modified body looks a bit like Wuhua's. Zhang Lingzi had thought about this before and nodded. What else? If a miracle happens, he won't become like Wuhua, right? If that's the case, people are neither humans nor ghosts. Will Su Zai be willing to come back to life? Perhaps she is willing to. Who can part with an old father and a young son? Even if you can't live like a normal person. Your question is as sharp as ever. Wooju smiled bitterly. It's not as serious as Wuhua, but he can no longer live like a normal person. This transformation left him with a glimmer of hope to survive, but it also deprived him of his ability to be normal. Shen Yunqing patted him on the shoulder. Whether he can accept this change depends on whether he can wake up first. As far as you are concerned, you have done your best. Wooju raised his head to meet his friend's eyes, pursed his lips, and said softly, actually, I don't know whether this will save him or hurt him again. The 3 of them were silent for a moment, and all looked at the operating table behind the glass wall. Will those lines disappear? No, it has become a part of his body. If he can wake up, he will have to live with these lines. After waiting for a while, Su Mo-kun couldn't help but sneeze. He then moved his eyes and looked at the 3 people waiting underground with him. Why don't you go up and have a drink of hot water first, instead of waiting here with me, an old man? You also have to go up and have a rest. Mr. Su hasn't woken up yet, and you have caught a cold first. I'm afraid that if my front foot just goes up, what if, I'll wait. Sumo-kun said and pressed the elevator button behind him. You guys go up first. I'm really fine. I've been here for a longer time. Maybe the child heard that there were too many people and was too embarrassed to wake up. Zhang Lingzi saw that she couldn't persuade him, so she had to take Shen Yunqing and Wuju into the elevator first. As soon as she returned to the ground, her phone vibrated. I collected all the information that I had not been able to receive underground before. Tong Yu, the afternoon promotional event for the new drama is scheduled for 3:30 p.m. I will pick you up after lunch. Where are the people? Did you see the news? I won't answer this call either. My aunt, please reply to me. Zhang Lingzi quickly replied received and looked up at Shen Yunqing. It suddenly occurred to me that there is an event in the afternoon. At first she remembered it well, but the fact that Sumo-kun came to her was so shocking that she completely forgot about it. I'll take you back first, Wuju. I'll stay. Wuju waved to the two of them. I'll tell Mr. Su then that you need to go back first if you have something to do. If a miracle really happens, I have to give Mr. Su a good checkup. I also need to emphasize the precautions for my body and future life. If I don't wake up, the body also needs to be properly disposed of. No matter what happens, I will send you a message. Shen Yunqing, hard work. Wuju smiled. It should be. As soon as Zhang Lingzi got into the car, Tong Yu's call came in. I didn't receive the message before because the signal was not good in the basement. Sister Tong, just come to Z1 to pick me up when the time comes. Tong Yu, who hadn't had time to ask, said, I'm quite conscious. By the way, I watched the new drama promotion program that China National Television did before. When the time comes, I may have to perform a simple talent show or something during the live broadcast. Think about what to prepare. It's best if it's related to the role you're playing. Do you want the character to know it? Okay, I get it. Hang up the phone. Zhang Lingzi seriously thought about what he would do when he became emperor, and it must be something that can be used for performances. But after thinking for a while, she found out. I don't seem to have much talent. What? Talents? I have to perform the talents of the characters I play in the afternoon activities. I can lead troops to fight, and I can criticize papers to go to court, but these can't be used for performances, right? If I had known, I would have learned the piano from you. At that time, she only knew how to listen, so it was okay to let her comment. Forget it, I'll just improvise when the time comes. After finishing speaking, the two of them looked at the mobile phone that was stuck on the car holder and suddenly lit up. I called here without realizing it. Zhang Lingzi's eyes quickly dialed to connect. I heard the microphone jam terribly, but I could still hear the excited and somewhat incoherent voice. It's moving, my God, it's really moving. What moved? Heart, it's really moving. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 698. A miracle really happened. Zhang Lingzi listened to Sumo-kun's excited voice on the receiver and even wanted to turn around and go back to take a look with her own eyes. However, thinking about what Wuju said, if a person wakes up, it is only the beginning. There will be a long period of cultivation and adaptation later. She and Shen Yunqing only took a look when they went back, and they could not help at all. It would be nice to wake up. Wuju took a photo and returned to the ground. Since the person has woken up, I have to stay here for a while. Su Ziyi's current body is different from that of normal people. I need to help him adapt to his current body. Try to make him live like an ordinary person as much as possible in the future. Shen Yunqing, then you stay there. I'll ask Chang Ning to send your luggage there. When Mr. Su is well, you will come back. I thank you. Zhang Lingzi smiled and hung up the phone. I couldn't help but sigh. Fortunately, Mr. Su has never given up searching for the truth all these years and has kept Mr. Su's body. Otherwise, this heart would really only be used for incense offerings. One drink and one peck. It has its own destiny. The two looked at each other and smiled. From death to life, no matter what, this is indeed a happy thing. Tong Yu also felt it when she came to pick her up. What are you so happy about? I experienced a miracle today. Although I could not see it with my own eyes, there is no doubt that the miracle really happened. She is looking forward to seeing Su Zai with his eyes open in the near future, and Su Xingyuan being held in his arms by his father. Before going out, Zhang Lingzi glanced at Shen Yunqing, who was sitting on the sofa next to her, for fear that she wouldn't notice. She turned to ask Tong Yu, how are the audiences for this show selected? Is it by buying tickets or by other means? This is really not about buying tickets. A small number of the audience are the family members of the staff of the national television station. They are given as benefits. Most of them are fans of your actors, selected after registration and screening, because there will be interactions on and off the stage. So the audience has certain requirements. What about being both a family member and a fan? Tong Yu looked at the direction her artist was pointing. Shen Yunqing finally relied on her own caution to get into Zhang Lingzi's nanny car. As a special audience. This was not the first time Zhang Lingzi went to China to record a program, and she took Tong Yu and the others to the elevator with ease. Wait a moment. Fang Yao, who was standing next to the elevator button, subconsciously pressed the door button, and the elevator door that had started to close slowly opened again. Lin Yan rushed in with his assistant, only to see clearly the person standing in the elevator. His back stiffened as he carried the violin. Is teacher Zhang here to record the show too? Zhang Lingzi saw the person's appearance clearly when he came in, but she didn't recognize him. But since the other party took the initiative to say hello, she nodded politely and said, hello. After speaking, he withdrew his gaze, and did not see the other party's gaze suddenly dimming. Shen Yunqing, who was standing in the corner, noticed it and turned his body sideways without any trace. When she got out of the elevator, Tong Yu's face became more speechless. Don't you recognize that person just now? We shouldn't be cooperating, right? Then she should know him. Actually, it's not like you haven't cooperated. The ending theme of Empress Yuan Zhao also has an interlude that was written, composed, and sung by someone else. Music talent Lin Yan. I guess he came here to rehearse the Spring Festival Gala program. Zhang Lingzi looked innocent. What does the post-production of the show have to do with me, the actor who was responsible for filming the characters in the early stage? Tong Yu was completely speechless. Forget it, let's consider you two acquaintances now. Next time we meet, besides you, let's add teacher Lin with that. He went to the dressing room. However, Shen Yunqing cannot enter as a spectator. You have to go to the auditorium and wait. Tong Yu glanced at Lu Zhengzheng and Fang Yao and decided to lead them there in person. This is a heavyweight audience after all. The seats must also be specially arranged, and they cannot be placed in the last row. The dressing room is already busy. Among the main creative staff of Empress Yuan Zhao, in addition to those who are really difficult to show their faces, such as Shen Yunqing, who was only a friendly actor at the beginning, and Shi Man, whose face collapsed and has not yet recovered, and who has already entered Yi Yin Chong, who had nothing to do in the temple. Almost everyone else who could come came. Everyone has to recreate the makeup and costumes of the characters in the play. This is another period costume, and almost everyone is busy in front of the makeup mirror. Even Wei Minmin and Pei Xinyuan, who are most familiar with each other both in the drama and in reality, could only wave at the person they saw in the mirror when they saw Zhang Lingzi coming in, without daring to move their heads. I really can't afford to waste time. When all the makeup was completed, he stood up and saw the other people's costumes. He was as sensitive as Pei Xinyuan, and his eyes suddenly turned red. He quickly raised his head to endure it, and bowed with tears in his eyes. "Qing Yuan pays homage to your Majesty." This immediately made many people in the dressing room become emotional. This movie was filmed from the scorching summer to the falling snowflakes, from the imperial film and television city to the desert of Liangchuan. There were many twists and turns in the process. The filming alone lasted nearly half a year, and with post-production included, more than half a year passed. Finally waited until it was about to be broadcast. It's not easy, it's really not easy. Zhang Lingzi this time wore a pale gold imperial uniform from the actor's costume. She did not wear the imperial crown uniform she wore when she ascended the throne. That one was too grand. However, this imperial uniform has a bit of gentleness in its majesty. It does not feel too far away, but makes people feel more friendly and close. Pei Xinyuan is the one who is not tense. Zhang Lingzi helped her up and looked at the clothes on her body that symbolized the highest level of a female official. In the play, you have reached the ultimate level of a female official, but outside the play, this is just the starting point. Empress Yuan Zhao will officially start broadcasting tomorrow, and the Qing Yuan in front of her will definitely become famous. All the guests in the dressing room were caught in a state of intertwined joy that the drama they were filming was finally about to air and sadness that this was also their last reunion. At this moment, in the audience, Shen Yunqing was undergoing torture. After all, he has shown his face in public before, and this time he would wear a mask to watch His Majesty's show. The people sitting around me are all fans of the actors. Wearing grey casual clothes, it is not out of line among the fans who are generally not too old. What was inconsistent was that his hands were empty, holding only a mobile phone ready to take pictures of His Majesty. While other people around him were holding lights, banners, and other items to support their idols, he seemed a bit out of the blue because he had not prepared anything. "Hey, whose fan are you?" Shen Yunqing turned his head and looked over, confirming that the other person was asking about him. He glanced at the red light sign in the other person's hand that said Zhang Lingzi, Zhang Lingzi. The girl who asked the question lit up at first. This man spoke very nicely. But, how could you not bring a single support item? Bad review. Then you are unprofessional, you don't even have support for Zixi. Are you really a fan of Zixi? Shen Yunqing was questioned. He is unprofessional. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 699. I am really a fan of Zhang Lingzi, or a family member. I am here this time just for her. We are all fans of Zixi, and we are all here for her. We also know each other because of Zixi, and we know each other's account names on the internet. What is the name of your account? I will check it now. I don't play that. Then how do you usually support us, Zixi? How do you do rankings? How do you sign in to remind us? How? Noticing the confusion flashing in the eyes of the man wearing a mask next to her, the girl suddenly frowned. You can't. Is he a fake fan? Shen Yunqing. For the first time in my life, I was speechless when asked. You'd better say. The word truth was interrupted by the host who came on stage. Everyone in the audience quickly looked toward the stage. The host has come out. Are the guests behind us still far behind? Shen Yunqing silently breathed a sigh of relief while looking at the stage. Finally, when the guests came on stage together, Shen Yunqing saw Zhang Lingzi standing on the stage wearing imperial uniform. Immediately afterwards, I heard screams one after another. Zixi! Zixi, look here! Zixi, I love you! Shen Yunqing. Zhang Lingzi heard the screams, looked towards the area where her fans were, smiled and waved, then pressed her hands down, and waited until everyone got the signal to stop screaming and shouting, then took it back. When he looked away, he took another look at Shen Yunqing, who was sitting among a group of fans. His posture looked a little stiff for some reason, and he suppressed a smile. "You didn't say anything when Zixi came on stage just now. Are you really a fan of Zixi?" Shen Yunqing decided to selectively block out the doubts from the side. "Eight winds don't move, just watch on the stage." This program is mainly used to promote the upcoming program, and the whole process is very relaxed. The first thing to be played was the specially produced full version of the trailer on the big screen behind everyone, with complete music and post-production. The moment the soundtrack started playing, Zhang Lingzi couldn't help but raise her eyebrows. When she heard the singer's voice, she immediately thought of the voice of the young man who greeted her in the elevator before. There are fights on the battlefield, games in the court, monarchs and ministers get along well with each other, and talents emerge in large numbers. The one-minute trailer, coupled with the powerful post-production and soundtrack, immediately brought everyone present into it, and it seemed that they had already caught a glimpse of the prosperous era of Yuan Zhao. When the screen dimmed, not only the audience, but also the guests who played the roles standing on the stage were still a little unsatisfied. The host smiled and picked up the microphone and faced the audience. "After watching the trailer, do you have the urge to see the full movie as soon as possible?" "Have." Neatly and uniformly, resounding throughout the hall. "To be honest, I have one too then. At 8 o'clock tomorrow night, it will be locked on the national channel, and there will be 2 episodes every day. Enjoy it." "Good." We also invited the director of the Empress Yuan Zhao crew and a group of creative actors. This time I believe that without my introduction, everyone can recognize their respective roles just through their makeup. As the host was speaking, Wei Minmin covered the microphone and leaned her head towards Zhang Lingzi. "Sister 11, what talents have you prepared?" Zhang Lingzi imitated her and covered the phone first. "I haven't thought about it yet. What about you?" Wei Minmin, "We're about to perform when we get to the stage. I haven't decided yet whether I should be so calm or not. I'm ready to play the drums. As for the drumming part before the formation, my makeup today feels quite impressive." Zhang Lingzi nodded. "It's a good idea." Also gave her some inspiration. "Today's makeup is actually not very suitable for elegant talents such as playing the piano and flute, let alone dancing, but you can try sword dancing." The reason why she said try it is because she has never danced with a sword before. The sword is in her hand, either to show authority or to kill. Speaking of performance, this is the first time. After a round of interesting questions and answers related to the plot, it was time for the talent show. As a director, Wei Xiao is exempted from this link, but for others, as actors, it would be a bit unreasonable to say that they don't have any talent at all. Wei Minmin started the performance by playing drums, and the atmosphere was explosive. Pei Xinyuan was very clever and combined embroidery with classical dance, which also received applause from the audience. Others were able to play musical instruments. The actor who played the general performed a set of boxing skills that he learned from the martial arts instructor on the set. By the time it was Zhang Lingzi's turn, the others had almost finished performing their talents. Noticing the worried looks in Wei Minmin and Pei Xinyuan's eyes, Zhang Lingzi shook her head invisibly at them. Then he turned around and walked to the edge of the stage, receiving a sword from the staff in charge of the props. The host's eyes widened in an exaggerated expression, and she shouted the name of her character in the play, "Your Majesty, are you going to dance with a sword?" Zhang Lingzi weighed the sword in her hands and felt quite satisfied. She nodded towards the host. "Just play the music from the trailer just now." The person in charge of the sound system subconsciously followed suit. When music arises, the sword comes out. There was a sword whistle, and silver light suddenly appeared. After Lin Yan finished rehearsing his Spring Festival gala repertoire, he was walking towards the elevator when he heard a familiar piece of music. As the 3-in-1 composer, and singer of the ending theme and episode of Empress Yuan Zhao, before composing lyrics and music, he naturally had to watch the entire drama in general in order to create music that best suited the drama. He took a break for 2 days after watching the show. At first, I was a little hesitant about whether to take up the role of this drama, but after watching it, I immediately decided to take it up. If he doesn't answer, he will regret it. After that, there is an endless stream of inspiration. After the 2 pieces of music for Empress Yuan Zhao were finished, he was sure that they were his 2 most popular and successful pieces in the past 2 years. Finally worthy of the character in the play who always stands on the top of the mountain, and the person who plays that character. The only regret I have is that the other party doesn't recognize him anymore. Hip seemed to have an idea of his own. When he finally came to his senses, he was already standing at the door of the studio hall. Looking up, he saw the figure in the play dancing with a sword in the bright light. Shen Yunqing knew when Zhang Lingzi made the starting move, which sword move she was going to practice. He has only seen His Majesty dance the set of sword moves once. At the New Year's Eve palace banquet that year, he was still sitting at the courtier's table and watched with his own eyes that man easily blocked the assassination attempt that had been carefully prepared for a long time by the former prince's party under the misty sword light. When everything at the banquet returned to calm, he came back to his senses and realized that the wine glass in his hand had cracked and his hand was full of wine. But to the man who sat high on the throne, the elaborate assassination of the former prince was nothing more than a small farce. Just like now, you can start at will and take it at your fingertips. Sword sheathed, thunderous applause. Amidst the deafening applause, Shen Yunqing raised his hand and gently pressed his heart, which was beating wildly again. Even if the moods of the 2 times are very different, who knows that what you see in front of you is the same person? Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 700. The 2-hour recording came to an end before I knew it. The host looked at the reluctant audience in the audience. It's time to say goodbye. I know everyone is very reluctant to say goodbye, and so am I, but tomorrow is the time to meet again. As long as we lock in at the critical time, National Taiwan, you can see the faces you want to see. 8 o'clock sharp. That's right. In addition, I just received an unexpected surprise. The singer of the ending song of Empress Yuan Zhao, teacher Lin Yan, happens to be here and has time. Now, please invite Lin Yan teacher, come and present Wish to Shine for 1,000 years to everyone. As the words fell, a beam of light fell on the stage. A young man wearing black casual clothes, holding a black microphone in his hand, appeared in the light beam. The music that appears this time is only accompaniment. After all, the original singer is standing here. This link is not in the script. Shouldn't this person be at the Spring Festival Gala rehearsal? Why did he come to our little show? I don't know. If the audience in the audience was surprised at this moment, then the guests on the stage who were already planning to leave the stage were also surprised. The private chat lasted only a moment, and soon everyone joined the audience and was immersed in the singing. After all, there are not many opportunities to hear Lin Yan sing live now. He is famously not fond of variety shows. Of course, apart from invitations to the Spring Festival Gala, the rest can only be heard at Lin Yan's annual concerts. And they really don't have much time to go to the concert. At the end of the song, Lin Yan looked towards the corner of the stage where the guests were sitting. The song Wish to Shine for 1,000 years is dedicated to Empress Yuan Zhao. When everyone heard his closing words, they thought it was dedicated to the play Empress Yuan Zhao. After all, this song was written specifically for this play, so it is appropriate to say so. Only Wei Minmin, who was sitting next to Zhang Lingzi, noticed something strange. Why did she feel that Lin Yan, the guy, was not looking at these guests just now, but just the one next to her? After all, the person played in the play is not the Empress Yuan Zhao. It's just that the show has ended perfectly at this point. The light beam on the stage disappeared, and the person standing under the light beam also slipped away quietly, leaving her unable to explore further. Asterisk. Shen Yunqing waited until Zhang Lingzi came out after taking off her makeup. I was questioned by your fans today. The little girl sitting next to me is a big fan of yours, and she doubted that I was a fake fan of yours. I almost had my household registration checked, no, my fan status. Zhang Lingzi wanted to endure it, but she really couldn't. Shen Yunqing waited for her to finish laughing and said, the Lin Yan who suddenly came on stage to sing at the end seems to be a fan of yours too. Zhang Lingzi thought for a while, really? How did you know that? She is a popular singer, and she became famous earlier than me. From what I heard in his song, he may be a fan of the historical Empress Yuan Zhao, but Empress Yuan Zhao is also Zhang Lingzi. It seems that my fans span thousands of years. Zhang Lingzi chuckled a little, that's quite satisfying. Shen Yunqing, as long as you are happy. Wei Minmin suddenly appeared from behind. I just said that there was an audience member in the audience who looked familiar. It turned out to be Mr. Shen. My brother-in-law has made a reservation and is in the private room of the hotel opposite. He happened to be at the hotel as well. Everyone, let's have dinner together and then separate, Mr. Shen. Zhang Lingzi, go ahead, it's nothing to have a private gathering. Shen Yunqing nodded. Wei Minmin blinked quietly at Zhang Lingzi. What an obedient Mr. Shen. Wait until everyone has packed up and come out, and then walk outside together. I just asked an acquaintance about it. Teacher Lin Yan suddenly came to our program. He was about to leave after rehearsing the Spring Festival Gala. He happened to pass by our recording studio and knew that there was a promotional program before the show. He took the initiative to come in and offer his performance. Singing, the effect is quite good. If people didn't leave quickly, I would be grateful. Lin Yan is said to have a cold temperament, but when I saw him today, he seemed quite enthusiastic. I also think that his voice needs to be prepared for the Spring Festival Gala. There is no appearance fee for singing a song with us. Zhang Lingzi listened to everyone chatting with a smile. It seemed that Lin Yan was really probably another fan of hers. Otherwise it would be difficult to explain. Asterisk. I'm out, I've got letters and flowers ready. Be sure to deliver them accurately. Oh, don't push forward. Why did you prepare 2 copies? One is for Zixi, and the other is for Min Min. He, I am a fan of both of them. I am a fan of the Empress and the Prime Minister, but it's a pity that the Prime Minister is not here today. Hey, this one is too mysterious. You can watch the main drama tomorrow, and eat as much as you want then. Zioxi, what are you doing? Why did you suddenly become stupid? The girl named Zioxi suddenly came back to her senses, but she still stared blankly at the figure walking out not far from the front. The other person was still wearing the exquisite black embroidered mask. She was extremely sure that this was the man who was sitting next to her in the audience not long ago, and she suspected that he was a fake fan of Zixi. But why can the other party be walking with the creators of Empress Yuan Zhao at this moment, and why is she still walking beside her favorite 1111? Zioxi just felt that her brain was completely insufficient now. It's windy, put on a mask. Zhang Lingzi had just taken the mask from Shen Yunqing's hand and was about to put it on when she suddenly looked towards the corner next to the potted plants at the gate and saw several figures waiting eagerly. One of them was looking at her and beside her in disbelief. Looking at the mask in her hand again, she chose to put it back into her pocket first. Zixi, this is my letter. I picked the flowers myself, not bought them. Please accept them. Zhang Lingzi took the flowers and letters that were handed over to her, but rejected the others. It's getting late. Let's go home early for dinner. Yeah. Zioxi nodded but didn't move her feet at all. Seeing that the person was about to leave, she mustered up the courage to say, Zixi, you. Zhang Lingzi didn't hear clearly what she said next and tilted her head. What? Shen Yunqing glanced over and whispered, this is the girl who was sitting next to me before. Zhang Lingzi. So they just scared people? She smiled at the other party, please keep it a secret. Zioxy nodded subconsciously, and watched the two of them leave with the others. Suddenly, he covered his face with his hands and couldn't help but wailed. Zioxy, you are really awesome today. How dare you question the family members of your favorite actors? Fortunately, the other person didn't have the same experience as her. It's just that this time I registered with Zixi in a different way, right?